Hello. So let's talk about Ukraine. I'm a quarter Ukrainian. My mother's mother, who raised us, was Ukrainian. But I promise I won't be biased. So, communists, after the communist revolution in Russia in 1917, invade Ukraine. Invade Ukraine. My grandma is a little girl, and they take over Ukraine, of course, shed lots of blood and take over because Russia is a much bigger country, as we know, and Ukraine is not independent anymore. So after that, communists come up with a plan, they come up with a term, with a new word, kulak. Kulak? Kulak means a rich farmer type of person who exploits others, and is a negative word, no good word, and they start attacking these rich farmers, and they killed, I think, maybe 30,000 or more of these people. So my grandma also grew up in a family of rich farmers, but they survived. They became refugees. They ran, the whole family. And you remember Sound of Music? How this adorable family of von von Trapp runs through the Alps, mountains of Alps, from the Nazis. So the same story happened. Maybe it was less romantic and less cute with my grandma, and they ran through the Caucasus Mountains, where Georgia is located. This is where I am from originally, as you already know, as I mentioned many times. So they came to Georgia, and they settled there. So they got lucky, but 30,000 other kulaks did not get lucky. So later she meets my grandfather, and they get married, and that's how I came to this world, me and my sister and all my family. So maybe we should be thankful to communists and Lenin for what they did to people, but no, I'm joking. So then what happens in Ukraine? Soon after, in the beginning of 30s, you probably have heard of Holodomor. This was famine, and about from 5 to 8 million Ukrainians died, starved to death. It was the genius plan of communists as a result of collectivization, and all these things were happening there. I can describe this in the future more in detail. So, horrible page in the history of Holodomor. After this, World War II, about 8 million or more Ukrainians die in World War II. And then horrible Stalin regime, horrible Soviet regime, and then in the end Chernobyl in 80s. And finally in 1991, after 70 years of torture, Ukraine and all of us, Georgia and all the other former Soviet republics, then they were Soviet republics, we become free. We had to fight for this, though, for several years. And we become free. We become free, and for 30 years, Russia is lonely. Russia is lonely because before, in 1917, after the revolution, Russia said, wow, I'm gonna be alone. I need all these countries around me. I'm gonna marry them, and especially Ukraine is number one. So Russia invades and forces us to marry, as I mentioned many times, 15 countries. One of them is Russia, so 14 left. In Russia needs 14 wives in this situation. But in 1991 we get away, but still Putin misses us today, and constantly. Today I am a citizen of the United States, and I am so happy, so glad. I still have post-traumatic stress disorder. I look out of the window here in Seattle, Washington, United States. Oh, are we getting invaded today? Yes, because that's been our history. It's not funny. So Thank God we don't get invaded here. I'm safe here. My country protects me. It's a great country. But how about the rest in Ukraine, in Georgia, all the surrounding countries? Because Putin and Russia, I'm not talking about the people. I'm only talking about the politics, because people, they never want war. I mean, only if they're brainwashed by their governments. And that happens too. And it is very dangerous. It happened in Nazi Germany. It can happen anywhere if somehow the humans, our world community does not learn how to handle separate individuals going nuts and trying to take over the world and do insane things and killing millions, 100 million. I'm talking about World War II. So now we're finally free, we're independent, but we're told, no, we want you back, you know, in the Russian Empire, in the Soviet Union, or whatever that is. But we're like, but we are independent, we want freedom. We never wanted you anyway, and you came and took over us, because that was beginning of 20th century. Now it's beginning of 21st century. A century later, and 100 years later, it's the same. You know, we're gonna operate by the same principles. I want you. You have to be mine. You know, the whole country. I'm gonna come over there and kill tens of thousands and take over. You have to love me, you have to be with me. But we're like, maybe we don't want to date you like Ukraine and other former Soviet countries. Maybe we want to just, you know, look around, date like the United States or Great Britain or European countries or NATO, EU, whatever. Are we free to do so? No, apparently we're not free to do so. And they want us back, but it's like, I mean, I just told you very brief history of Ukraine of the 20th century, just 70 years when Ukraine was in the Soviet Union. Do you like that relationship? Do you see anything good there? Just millions and millions, tens of millions of lost lives for nothing, you know? So no democracy, living behind the Iron Curtain. So I mean, this is our pain. Today it's a very, very emotional day and emotional time because of what's happening in Ukraine, between Ukraine and Russia. And those people, I mean, one thing Putin got right. He got right. He wrote this big paper how Ukrainians and Russians, they're the same and brothers, etc. Yes, Ukrainians and Russians are brothers. So in what book is it right to invade your brother, your neighbor, and just try to rule there? So now I will talk about Ukraine again because this was just a part of it, and it came out emotional, and maybe I was a little biased, but I'll try to do better in my next video. Thank you for listening.